Thank you, Vice Chairman. And Admiral Rogers, I can't remember whether it was you or somebody else at the table said when we had a closed session about investment, it's not how much we spend, it's how we deploy the capital that we've devoted to a particular thing. And I think as a general statement, we get much better at the way we deploy capital. And I think we deploy it with a measurement tool today on return that's totally different than it was 10 and 20 and 30 years ago, and I think that's important. This committee has a global mandate, a mandate that I think has been reflected, in the statements and the questions of the members of this committee today. It's my hope that the American people got a sense of the breadth of topics this committee deals with on a daily basis, and so do you. What was unsaid today? What was unsaid is that the special counsel is not the only investigation that's going on in Washington. The scope of the special counsel's investigation was clearly stated by the DAG when he hired Bob Mueller. And I think the media has spent some portion of every day trying to portray that the scope of that investigation has changed. Truth is, I don't know. Not sure that anybody in this room knows. But here's what I do know. I know the Senate Intel investigation continues. We're hopefully wrapping up some important areas that we have focused on. The Vice Chairman just alluded to the fact that it is our hope and our belief that before the primaries begin, we intend to have an overview of our findings that will be public. We intend to have an open hearing on election security. And it's the committee's intent to make recommendations that will enhance the likelihood that the security of our election process is in place. In addition to that, our review of the ICA, the Intel Community Assessment, which was done in the December of 2016, we have reviewed in great detail. And we hope to report on what we found to support the findings where it's appropriate, to be critical if, in fact, we saw areas that we found came up short. We intend to make that public. Overview to begin with, none of these would be without a declassification process, but we will have a public version that we air as quickly as we can. And the third piece of review of when we learned of Russia's intrusions into our system, what we did or what we didn't do. And again, with the intent of sharing as much of that with the American public as we can find through open hearings and through an overview. Lastly, we will continue to work towards conclusions related to any cooperation or collusion by any individual, campaign, or company with efforts to influence the outcome of elections or to create societal chaos in the United States. I want to thank each of you at the table for an unprecedented access to intelligence products, legal documents, and other materials that were needed for us to do our job. We have a very talented group of individuals who have conducted this investigation. The remarks of every individual who has come in before us has commented on their professionalism and the fact that at the end of 8 hours they couldn't tell who was a Democrat and who was a Republican. So the effort to be bipartisan has not just been public, it is private as well, and permeates all the way down through our staff. They couldn't do this in a timely fashion if it wasn't without the access that each of you have provided us and your agencies. And let me just reiterate again, we understand that this is an unprecedented access to this information. I promised you when we started a year ago that the sensitive nature of that material would in fact be protected. The Vice Chairman and I have done everything in our power to do that. We think we have maintained that promise. There have been times where information has found its way out, some of recent, where it didn't come from us, but certainly people have portrayed it did. And that's okay, because you know and we know the security measures we've got in place to protect the sensitivity of that material. We have also protected the sensitivity of the individuals that have been interviewed voluntarily. The individuals who have come in, what they've shared with us, to date we have not released any interview notes, because that's not for public consumption. We ask people to come in and share with us things that help us understand what happened. It's our responsibility to take that information and to put it into some form that furthers the American people's understanding and assurance that we have thoroughly reviewed this. We will continue the promise that we made to each of you till the conclusion of this investigation and on. There are no expectations that everything you have shared with us is now a precedent that you have to continue. I hope it's not. I have said publicly and criticized for it that our committee was created to operate in secrecy. I believe that's where we perform our best work, and we're given the opportunity and the need for the American people to have a better understanding that we should provide that forum in as controlled an atmosphere as we do. Today is an example of that, and we can now move from a public setting to a more private and closed setting to continue to get some clarity on some of the issues that our members need. I want you to understand the takeaway here. The takeaway is this committee has and will continue to focus on answering the question that was given to this committee from an investigation standpoint: what Russia did to influence the 2016 elections. There are efforts to expand our efforts. They are not internal. We realize we have to answer for the American people, what did Russia do to mess with the 2016 elections? And like many of you on some of the questions when we've asked that we're specific about it in public and in private, we find it's multi-jurisdictional. We've got to begin to sort that out for us, the American people. So I thank you for your willingness to be here today. I thank you for the performance of your employees who have worked tirelessly with very little thanks and of late with a lot of criticism to keep this country safe. And I might say to keep other countries safe, because we are very generous when we know that bad things are going to happen. The committee is appreciative of the relationship that we have. We will continue to work to earn your trust, because that's the only way we can perform the type of oversight that we believe the committee is mandated to do. And for the cooperation that each one of you provides us, we're grateful for that. With this hearing's adjourned until closed session at 2:30.